Leader Kim Jong-Il has died. State television confirmed he had a heart attack on Saturday. He was 69. His son, Kim Jong-Un, will take over as leader of the reclusive state. And this morning, the Foreign Secretary, William Hague, released a statement about his death. He says this could be a turning point for North Korea. We hope that their new leadership will recognise that engagement with the international community offers the best prospect of improving the lives of ordinary North Korean people. He goes on to say we encourage North Korea to work for peace and security in the region and take the steps necessary to allow the resumption of the six-party talks on denuclearisation of the Korean peninsula. That from the Foreign Secretary. Sky's Holly Williams now reports.
His cult of personality was North Korea's state religion.
The Supreme Commander of the Korean People's Army passed away from a great mental and physical strain at 8:30 on a train during a field guidance tour.
The news of his death has sparked an hysterical outpouring of grief for a man who cast himself as the father of the North Korean nation. Kim Jong-il was the ruler of one of the most secretive countries on earth, a place they call the Hermit Kingdom. But with his bouffant hairdo and dark sunglasses, he was one of the most recognizable rulers in the world. Kim took over North Korea after his father died in 1994, the first ever communist leader to have inherited power. This is how he wanted the world to see his country. Lavish displays of pomp and adulation. But his military aspirations went much further. He wanted North Korea to be a nuclear power. America labelled it part of the axis of evil. Tensions between the countries grew, and in 2006, North Korea detonated an underground nuclear device without warning. In 2009, North Korea defied UN resolutions by launching a long-range Taepodong-2 missile with a potential range to reach Alaska and Hawaii. A few months later, North Korea claimed to have successfully tested another nuclear weapon as powerful as the atomic bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. Kim Jong-il's eccentric behaviour even attracted Hollywood's gaze. He starred in a puppet spoof, wearing his characteristic 4-inch platform shoes, portrayed as a depressive crooner. Under his rule, his people faced famine and drought. It's thought hundreds of thousands, possibly millions, have died of starvation. In 2008, it's believed he suffered a stroke. He appeared frail and emaciated in several public appearances. Last year, Kim Jong-il anointed his son, Kim Jong-Un, as his heir apparent, a young man who attended a Swiss boarding school and is said to speak several languages. But in a country that's poverty-stricken, sealed off, and home to one of the world's biggest armies, his succession is far from certain. Holly Williams, Sky News, Beijing.
There about the great successor, Kim Jong-un. What more do we know about him?
He appears, for the moment, not to be as flamboyant as his late father. Holly was alluding to the sort of tragic comedy of the leadership. I mean, it was a very skillful piece of editing there by Holly, because there is this utter comedy figure of walking around saying, "I'm so lonely" in the film. Cut to those starving children, because that is the reality of what this comical figure ended up overseeing. I mean, they are legion, the ones about his father, the world's greatest golfer, 11 holes in one round, certified by his 19 bodyguards. When he was born, rainbows and stars appeared in the sky, and it turned from winter to spring, etc., etc. But then, you go to the reality of what they oversaw. Now, this is the country that the young man inherits. Things we know about him, not that much. Kim Jong-un, believed to have been born in 1983, maybe 1984, the youngest son of Kim Jong-il and his late third wife, Ko Yong-hui. It's fact, he was educated in Switzerland, one of those big posh finishing schools they have there, and he's thought to speak both English and German. Initially, it was thought that one of Kim Jong-il's 2 other sons would succeed him, but then last year this guy got a 4-star general appointment, and at that point it became clear that he was going to be the great successor. He accompanied his father on a diplomatic visit to China. That was in May of this year, and again that was a big signal. This guy is being groomed to lead this nuclear-powered country, even though he's in his late 20s. Not known much about his character. I mean, the fact that he went to a Western school means he may have had his eyes open to what is potentially achievable for a modern economy. But it's believed he avoided Western influences in Europe, kept himself to himself, but a reported fan of NBA basketball. His father was a reported fan of all sorts of things, didn't make him any sort of wiser in his benevolent rule. I mean, his father, for example, was a huge film fan, and to such an extent he kidnapped 2 South Korean filmmakers and brought them to North Korea to make a North Korean version of Godzilla, and they had to escape several years later when they were trying to doing the remake, Godzilla Part 2, when they were in Portugal. I mean, all these bizarre stories come out, and let's find out over the years if this son is going to follow in those footsteps, or, as the Foreign Secretary said, this is the chance for a re-engagement and a new era. So
difficult to tell at this stage, then, what the future holds with his leadership, you think, which way it could go?
Yes, you can put a scenario up where the 20-something general, who's never fired a shot in his life, as far as we know, wants to impress these generals and say, yeah, don't worry, I'm a big tough guy, and orders the sinking of a ship, as his father did last year when the North Korean submarine sank a South Korean ship. Or he could think to himself, I am smart enough to know I'm not that smart. We will try and move in a moderate direction. We will try and modernize this country, and I'll try and take the generals with me. All the time, the generals will be thinking, I'm not letting... I mean, it's impossible to imagine that if you're a general of 30 years standing, you're really going to let this 20-something make the big decisions. So there will be people trying to guide him, one of which is his uncle, who has already been guiding him over the past year. So all these things are now swirling around. This is why some of the nations in the region have put their forces on moderate alert, just in case somebody tries to do something stupid in order to make a point. The likelihood is of a peaceful transition, but they can't not be on alert just because that's the likelihood. They have to plan for all eventualities.
And a nuclear-armed state, and a very secretive one at that. Not that much is known about it. How has it managed to survive until now in the form that it has?
I knew I knew an ambassador over there once, and he said to me it was like trying to prise open a plate glass window. You can't get any purchase with your fingers to get a gap to look through what is really happening behind this opaque glass. And he tried for several years and got a reasonable handle on event, but that was by living there day in, day out. For most outsiders or visitors, it's almost impossible to know who are the real powers. Do the union leaders, such as they are, have any power? How big is the Christian community and how much dissent is there within it? When we see the pictures of the crying, how much of it is real and how much is put on because they're frightened of not being seen to toe the line? Very few people fully understand North Korea and understand... In fact, do you know what? I don't think any outsider, maybe the Chinese, maybe, apart from them, I don't think any outsiders understand the real power structures of the country and the true state of the country. It is so secretive. Even if you were an ambassador, you can't just get in a car and drive to another town. You are restricted to Pyongyang unless you apply for permission, then people come with you.
We see here the weeping scenes in North Korea. Contrast that to what's happening in South Korea at the moment. How have they reacted to the news?
They loathe the North Korean leadership for a number of reasons. One is the war they fought 50 years ago. Another is that just this year there was shelling, was it last year, shelling on a South Korean island which killed civilians. That one of their Navy ships was sunk by a submarine. Several South Koreans have been kidnapped and taken across the border. They also give succor in South Korea to those few North Koreans that manage to escape. They usually go up north, over the river and into China, and then come round in a really circular route back to South Korea and try and restart their lives. That trickle would be a flood if it wasn't for both the river, the conditions up there, the secretive society, and the fact that if you get caught trying to cross, you may well end up dying. I think that tells us what's really going on inside North Korea, the fact that so many people try to get out up north.
Tim, thanks for that. Nick Clegg is due to unveil his latest proposals on constitutional